A bit of a dramatic title, I suppose, but there hasn't really been a year in recent memory as consistent and promising for rock music as 2016, and so I thought it would be fun to take a trip down memory lane, rewind the clock back to the best music of 10 years ago. And starting with the Billboard Hot 100 singles, obviously there's not much to talk about here, there's not much rock music on here. The closest I would say would be 21 Pilots, but honestly these tracks aren't really my cup of tea personally, and neither was that Ex-Ambassadors track. I thought that the Coldplay song was actually pretty cool production-wise, and that's my one guilty pleasure I'll admit here, but that's okay because there were some great albums that came out this year. Shout out to the self-titled Preoccupations album, Cardinal by Pinegrove, Beyond the Fleeting Gales by Crying. Fantastic rock albums that I loved from this year, but just barely missed the top 10. While not exactly a rock album, I don't know where else to put this thing. I mean, production is just so washed out, almost this lazy, sun-soaked vibe from these clean vibrato guitars. Olsen's voice also carries this extremely unique quality that actually may take some new listeners getting used to at first. It's this bending, loose, sliding glissando that vaguely dances around the note that she wants to hit before actually hitting it. It adds a lot of tension and yearning in her voice. I absolutely love this characteristic of her singing, sometimes aggressive, sometimes refrained almost to a whisper. For my favorite tracks, I'm taking Never Be Mine, Not Gonna Kill You, Sister, and Those Were the Days. If you've never heard this album before, I want you to imagine the deepest voices in music that you know of. Now take that voice and multiply it by 10, because Leonard Cohen on this album sounds like he's been smoking a pack a day since he was 6 years of age. I mean, I have not found gravel, husk, morning voice, whatever you want to call it, close to touching this level. There's actually a surprising amount of soul. I would go as far as to say even gospel influence on this album as well. Favorite tracks give me You Want It Darker, Leaving the Table, Traveling Light, Steer Your Way, the final track, String Reprise / Treaty, making a callback to the second track, which was a beautiful touch and a great way to wrap up the record. And yeah, just rest in peace to Leonard Cohen. It's hard calling this a rock album, as this is more so a therapeutic lamenting over the loss of Nick Cave's son. This album sounds like the haunting symphony of ghosts and spirits, and if you want to hear my full thoughts, I'll put a link to another video I've made covering what are, in my opinion, the saddest albums of all time in the info box and also in the link in the description. This is probably the most energetic, unhinged rock album I have listed here. The punk speeds, the riffs, the volume of these lyrics being belted out. It's like all this angst, anger, emotion is being poured out into these tracks. Rosenstock chants about everything from modern technology to eviction to discrimination to the perils of being chronically online and permanently plugged in digitally, as well as the negative consequences that arise from it. So if you have pent-up demons that just need to be released in a cathartic way, you should definitely check out this album. Brooding, sinister, mystifying. This is a grandiose display of killer atmosphere, huge insurmountable crescendos. It feels like the end times or an apocalyptic tale of a scorched earth being shattered, massive walls of sound, almost cultish sometimes. They really don't mind taking their time, their sweet time, dragging out these crescendos, letting the tension swell and making the payoff even bigger. So if you have the patience, this album will reward you in spades. Such brutally honest lyricism, existentialist anthems. This album exudes so much youth and problems with figuring out your identity and navigating growing up. This album is the soundtrack to the tension of overwhelming awkwardness and anxiety. It almost makes me feel uncomfortable that Will Toledo is pointing out these problems about my life, but comforting that so many other people are going through the same exact problems. Favorite tracks would have to be Destroyed by Hippie Powers, Joe gets kicked out of school for using drugs with friends but says this isn't a problem, Drunk Drivers, Killer Whales, Unforgiving Girl, She's Not In, and the Ballad of Costa Concordia. 9 tracks, infinite loop, chaos, insanity, absurdist lyricism. There are probably numerous video essays out there at this point covering just this project alone. The blues riffs, the harmonicas, the blistering tempos, the aggressive filter on the mix that feels like you're pod racing through a desert. The time signatures and song structures are just so unconventional, so weird. The performances are just so impressive, opening the door to a whole new realm of experimental psychedelia and hard rock. This is undoubtedly one of the most consistent Weezer albums in their whole prolific discography. It really is just summary pop rock banger after banger, and I don't know if this is one of those projects that Cuomo used his infamous spreadsheet to write these songs, but it really doesn't matter because the performances sell these songs. They're so catchy, explosive choruses, creative melodies. I mean, California Kids into Wind in Our Sail, Thank God for Girls, Girl We Got a Good Thing, Jacked Up, Endless Bummer, just to name a few favorites of mine. And I mean, this album is just stacked, filled to the brim. Once again, if you want to know my full in-depth thoughts, go check out that video I mentioned earlier about the sad albums. But basically, this is one of my desert island discs, personally, no pun intended, and one of my personal favorites from the Radiohead catalog, and that's because of how emotional this record is. Do not let the sparse barrenness of the production fool you into thinking this is somehow an underwhelming album. The album is so incredibly textured, and if you want something that sounds so defeated, gloomy, disintegrated, to cry yourself to sleep to, this is it right here. For favorite tracks, give me Daydreaming, Full Stop, Glass Eyes, Present Tense, True Love Waits. To me, these are what I believe to be the most emotionally potent tracks here. But to be honest, the whole album is just a downer in the best way possible. And we're ending the rock category with another downer. This was definitely a dark year for rock music. There's not a single track, really not a single moment on this project where I feel like it's overstaying its welcome or pandering. Everything feels so meticulously crafted and calculated. There's just so much musical evolution. The drumming on this album is so powerful, raw, expressive. So are the string passages as well. And obviously, as Bowie confronts his own mortality, these lyrics are just absolutely heartbreaking, haunting. My favorite aspect of this album is actually these saxophone parts, and if you're gonna be blown away by any of the albums in this rock section, it's definitely this one. Yeah, I can't even really choose a favorite track. They're all great, they're all fantastic. Rest in peace to David Bowie, and please do yourself the favor of listening to this album if you've not already. And this album sparked the beginning of an interesting discourse surrounding the death of artists as well, which is a bit of a double-edged sword because it's good that they're getting traction and new listeners sort of flocking to discovering their discography for the first time, but at the same time it's a bit sad because did it really require this amount of publicity for people to finally discover how great this music was? I mean, the discography was there, the art, the music proved itself, and its greatness spoke for itself. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about this whole discourse surrounding the popularity of artists surging surrounding their death. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite rock album or song of 2016, and has any year been comparable in your memory since then? Consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed, and that's it for me, and I'll see you in the next one.